Hi there. I just get you up a little bit. Oh, I have been reflecting, and I was just like thinking, and this came to my head, and it just came to my head so prominently that I was like, I have to like say this out loud to make sure I'm not completely insane. But I feel like a lot of times people, I'm just getting straight to the point. A lot of times people associate like detachment with like a lack of empathy, and I'm only saying that first because I feel like we live in a culture that everyone, I've been seeing like people saying this, like our generation lacks empathy and like the ability to empathize with others. And I'm like, yeah, we are pretty cynical, and we are pretty like, we do have a lot of like, there's a lack of trust, but also people are trying to associate, or people like are who associate like this idea of like detachment with a lack of being able to empathize with other human beings. Like you're like, people associate detachment with being like a machine. And it's interesting because in a lot of like self-improvement content, it's always about, I'm like looking at my laptop because that's where I was writing, it's always about like, you have to detach, you have to this, you have to that. And I used to be a big hater, I still kind of am, but I used to have a lot of scrutiny around this idea of detachment because it made it seem like you just don't care. Like it made it seem like you can't empathize with others, you just, do you know what I'm saying? Like, because you're detached, like you don't care. It's basically, that sounds dumb, but like, you know what I mean. And I was thinking about that because a lot of people associate the two together, but I don't think like detachment is not a lack of empathy. It isn't, because you can be an empathetic person and you can feel like, you can feel things for other people like when they're going through something, but you like don't have to attach to it. And that's kind of the core of it, because empathy, I feel like, is the ability to understand and relate to someone else's experience. We tend to associate it with emotions. Well, attachment is when you start to identify with it. Like when you're attached to someone, like you feel like you can't live without it, like it's become a part of your, become a part of the core of your, like, who you are, like your identity. But empathy, it's the ability to understand someone and to do something for someone and to help them and stuff, but to not let the emotions or anything consume you. And even with like world news and stuff, and we see people suffering all around the world, and we think like, it is absolutely horrible what is happening, and you can watch that and you can be empathetic and you can pray and you can hope and you can try to help, but you shouldn't let it consume you. And that sounds so bad to say, but it's kind of a real thing. Like, you aren't meant to internalize the sufferings of every single thing you see, every single person you know. And that sounds terrible, but it's true. We're just not meant to. You're allowed to understand, feel it, relate to it, let it move through you and whatnot. But you're not supposed to let it consume you to the point where you feel like you feel this horrible obligation to like save them or something. And then when you can't, all of a sudden it's all your fault. And then you start to blame yourself for for a problem that you never actually caused, which is so wild. Maybe this is just me because I tend to have that obligation problem. But you can be detached from something. You can be detached from like your reality, people, whatever's, not serving you or whatnot, but you can still empathize with them and try to understand them, and then try to learn from them, because that's a real thing. I know like it's easy to put the two together, but they're really not the same thing. And I feel like especially today we like to put the two together because we glorify this idea of detachment just a little bit. It's good. I think it's good to detach and pause and notice, but I feel like we glorify it as the thing that's going to solve all of our problems. Like, if I just detach from everything, every single thing, like, no. you're supposed to be attached to certain things. You're supposed to be attached to like, whatever your purpose is, you know? Because I feel like your purpose fuels your identity. I'm like battling. I'm like having a philosophical battle in my head. Because technically you can be detached from everything and still, like, empathize with it. But I think a part of me, I value attachments because I feel like they teach us stuff. So I'm like having an internal battle as I'm like talking to the camera. Because I'm like, yeah, you can detach to everything, but I feel like I value attachments as a thing. Because again, they teach us stuff, and they can kind of ground us in certain things. Does that make sense? I sound absolutely insane right now, don't I? It's okay. Another thing I wrote was this. Oh, hopelessness equals cynicism equals lack of motivation equals the belief that everything is going to shit. I feel like I talked about that more in my last video of, like, I believe in a better future and just having optimism in general. But I do think that most cynicism, at least like our generation one, is just from this idea of hopelessness and feeling like you can't do anything about it. Even though you can, it's just we're trained to think that what we can do isn't enough anymore, and that we have to make this, like, groundbreaking change to the world in, like, one day. And it's like, no, that's not how it works. These things literally take so much time. And again, the idea of it taking time, like, guys, this is all connected, is we live in a society, short form content, distraction, a shitty attention span. We've grown impatient. We need that, we need to feel it right away, literally. That's how we've been conditioned now. Guys, I'm connecting the dots so much right now. I'm just waiting for the conspiracy board to just slowly pan in behind me, but it's real. It's all, literally, it is all connected, which is so wild to me. But we kind of have to, ironically enough, we kind of had to detach from the system, even though I just talked about how much, you know what, yeah, we kind of have to detach from the system in order to, A, see it for what it is, and B, restore our sense of, like, hope and optimism and love for the world and, like, love for its people, and a belief that progress can happen. We can make progress and we can make things better. It's just so hard to feel that nowadays when we are always being, like, when all this terrible stuff is always being thrown in our face, because it can make you really cynical, trust me. Like, sometimes I'll think about things that I want out of my life and what I want to do, and then the little, like, the little voice in my head who just hates me, I suppose, is like, yeah, but the world's going to shit, so it doesn't even matter, blah, blah, blah. It's not even worth it because the world is going to shit. And that's such a horrible belief to have, because it just fuels that cycle of feeling like, I want to do something, but I can't because the world's going to shit, but then you're not doing anything to make it less shit. So then it just keeps on fueling and going and going and going until you drive yourself literally up the wall, like I have so many times. And it's so hard to break that cycle of, like, being like, everything's bad, so therefore I'm going to do nothing. A lack of action sucks. Doing action, even when it feels like it's not, like, doing anything, is, like, the bravest and most amazing thing a person can do, especially today. Because it shows, number one, it shows how much, it shows your beliefs that you can make the world a better place. But I feel like it also shows an incredible courage to be able to see everything that's happening and see how terrible it is, and see that, like, everything seems to be getting worse, and still choosing to do something good. Like, that is, like, we need to be being radically good, not great, radically good will save the world. I feel like being radical, because, again, everyone knows this kind of saying. It's like, everyone wants to be great, but does anyone want to be good? But I think that's so real. Because everybody, you do want to, even I think of my dreams, and I'm like, yes, I want to be great, I want to be well known. But I feel like to be great, like, you kind of have to be good first. And this can apply to almost everything. Like even if it's like a hobby or something, to be great at it, you have to be good. And you have to be okay with being just good. Because again, being radically good is so powerful in my opinion. Anyway, I love how this went from detachment, empathy to like, well, no, actually, I feel like it is all really and truly connected. And I'm kind of a conspiracy theorist. It's a little unfortunate, but it really is all connected in the sense that the system wants us to fail and wants us to not think we can do anything. Obviously, this has been established for years now. But the choice, but what's new is choosing to do something despite every circumstance being against you. Isn't that crazy? Yeah. I dyed my hair too yesterday. I dyed it red again. I feel like whenever things are like getting bad, I'm like, I need to make a horrible decision. You know? So I did my hair. I think it looks good. But yeah, guys, let's be radically good, please. Peace and love.